From the vaults of time and risen from the static, a podcast unlike any ever heard before. Something fresh from the days of yore, an analog dream, a digital nightmare. You have now entered the memory machine.
Alright everybody, this is Geno and I'm welcoming you to episode 2 of the Memory Machine. I am recording at 3:39 p.m. on Sunday, May 28th, 2017. What are we discussing today? We are discussing one of my favorites from back in the day. We are discussing the 2001 American teen sitcom Lizzie McGuire. Now, there's going to be a lot of personal stories that I'm going to share here that I've never shared in public before. So get ready for some shit. First, let's start off with a little preamble. It premiered on the Disney Channel on January 12th, 2001, following the premiere of Xenon the Sequel. Xenon the Sequel being the sequel to the popular Xenon franchise, the first film being Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, which I believed was released back in 1999. The show starred Hilary, Duff, the monogamous Lelaine, Adam Lambert, Jake Thomas, and veterans Haley Todd and Robert Carradine. Now, this show was a lot of fun growing up. I had a huge crush on Hilary Duff. And I have to say it, she is the only Disney Channel girl to not get soaked up by all that blitz, all that paparazzi. She was probably the only one not to. She was the only Disney girl, with the possible exception of Cara Delizia from So Weird. She's the only Disney girl who really escaped from all of this unscathed. She's never abused her body. She's never sold her body. She's never sold herself. She's never tried to, tramp it up, as I like to say. She's really kept herself clean, and that's what I like about her as well. If any girl wants to have a role model, it should be Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff, because, even the character of Lizzie McGuire was a good-natured person, good-natured girl. She really never did anything wrong. I mean, sure, she would get into mishaps. She would get into, she would have misunderstandings with other characters, but she never purposefully did anything wrong just to make herself look cool. I just rewatched an episode, the debut episode, Rumors, which actually is not the pilot episode. Many people think that the first episode is the pilot. Actually, the pilot episode is episode 4, Pool Party. That I think, was actually filmed in either late 1999 or early 2000. This show was another one of those shows that was part of Disney Channel's Zoog Disney brand. This show ran alongside of things like So Weird, The Jersey, The Famous Jet Jackson, the show Even Stevens, which had just premiered I believe the previous year, and so this was really also the program In a Heartbeat. That was also part of the Zoog Disney branding. This show was really, I think, the last show to come out of that whole umbrella. That umbrella didn't last too long after the premiere of Lizzie McGuire. I believe the Zoog Disney brand went off the air in 2002, I think. I think that's when the Zoog Disney brand just stopped. And I think the reason for that is that a lot of the programs that were on the Zoog Disney banner were more or less dramas. I think the only two sitcoms were Lizzie McGuire and Even Stevens. And the reason I believe, and I've speculated for shows like Even Stevens and shows like Lizzie McGuire, is because at that time, Disney, at least in late 1999, early 2000, I think 2000, 2001 time area, Disney was expanding from being a pay-as-you-go television network, which it had been since its inception back in 1985, to, I believe it was 85, to a basic cable network. For us here, when I lived in New Britain, I believe Disney was channel 42. Disney was channel 42 on our basic cable, and I couldn't wait to watch channel 42 because that was where everything was that I loved. And that's back when they aired like older stuff too, like DuckTales, First Kid, a lot of great movies like that. So anyway, getting into the show proper, it's basically here's the premise of the whole show. It's about Lizzie McGuire, played by Hilary Duff, a beautiful blonde teenager who has just left adolescence and is going into teenhood and struggling with so many of the awkward social situations of the day, and like there was one episode which I don't think Disney had ever explored this topic before on a television program of theirs, at least. But there was an episode where Lizzie wanted to buy a bra, rather famous episode there. And it explored a lot of other different social issues that girls were having at the time. And she had a little brother, Matt, played by Jake Thomas, who is a stereotypical prick little brother. If anything, he was my big bone of contention with this whole series. I mean, looking back on it now, parts of his character were funny, but parts of his character were like, I just want to punch this little motherfucker right in the face. You know what I mean? Because this guy, was so annoying and so horrible to his sister. It's like there's no reason for him to be that much of an ass to his sister. And so yeah, he was a prick. And they lived with their two parents, Joanne or Joe McGuire, played by Haley Todd, and Sam McGuire, played by the great Robert Carradine. Now, it must be said that the McGuires, from the exterior of the house and the interior, were living pretty well. It makes me wonder, because I don't think it was ever explored in the series, what Sam did for work, or even if Joe did any work. It was never. I know Sam definitely had a job because he was always dressed in a tie and everything else, but I don't think it was ever made clear in the series what he actually did for work. But I'm going to assume he was either a really well-paid office worker, or he was a manager of some company. That's what I'm going to guess. Judging by the way he looked, his appearance, and judging from the house that they have, I'm going to guess that he was a manager of some sort. And Lizzie would hang out, at school. The name of the school is escaping me. I don't think they ever named the school. I think it was just some high school. I don't think the school was ever really named. Again, I haven't seen the show in years. I mean, the only show that I've recently rewatched is the original first episode. And I don't believe the school is named in that episode. So Lizzie would hang out at school, and at her house with her two friends, David Gordon, who was known throughout the series as Gordo, played by Adam Lamberg, and Miranda Sanchez, played by the monogamous Lelaine. Monogamous being a term used for people who only go by one name professionally. People like that would be like Sinbad, um, Outcast, people like that. And so and I like the fact that they gave Lizzie the typical white blonde girl, white blonde American girl next door, a Jew guy for a friend, and a Latina girl for a friend. I like that. I like the fact that they had that much diversity in the show. I mean, Disney. I mean, this is Disney. Okay, they could have easily gone the they could have easily gone like give her two white friends or give her a one white friend and have it be all happy and cheery. No, they actually went in and and made the show somewhat diverse, which was really really good. There were many episodes actually that explored Miranda and Gordo's either religions or cultural backgrounds. Like I think there was an episode. There was a Halloween episode that I remember very, very well, always airing on Disney. I remember the promo like it was yesterday, where Kate, because there's a bully character on the show, Kate Sanders, played by Ashley Burlott, or Burlott. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that name. And she was a bitch. She was like the school bitch, really. And judging from past episodes, she was a good person, but when she became a cheerleader and when she developed physically, she became a bitch. She became Miss Popular. Really, really horrible person. She did some horrible things to Lizzie and everything. And the episode that I watched, Rumor, she did some horrible things to Miranda. But Miranda got her back and was like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna make your hair green. I'm gonna pull these practical jokes." There was also a really scary shot of Kate in that episode too, horrifying. But yeah. And so the one episode I was talking about earlier was it was a Halloween episode, and in it, they were having like a Halloween party at the school, and Kate was putting down Miranda's culture, Miranda's beliefs, and her traditions. And so her parents and Lizzie and Gordo and all of them set up an elaborate scheme to teach Kate not to mess with tradition. And if I remember correctly, her parents dressed up as a skeleton couple and they were chasing Kate all around the school. And Lizzie was like this demented clown. I think Gordo. It was either Gordo or Matt, who dressed up as a mummy. I'm not sure what Miranda dressed up as. It's been a while since I've seen this. I'm just going from memory at this point. Hence the name of the show, Memory Machine. And so it was. As much as I liked the show, it was a very typical teen sitcom. Very, very typical teen sitcom. It wasn't very much different from other product being shown at the time. But I think because of the charm and the charisma of Hilary Duff, that's what made the show, at least for me. I mean, again, I did have a major megaton crush on Hilary Duff. I think she was my legit first Disney Channel crush. And probably my first celeb crush that I ever had. There's a rather funny story that I always like telling people whenever I talk about Lizzie McGuire, and it's this. My sister used to collect Teen Beat magazine, Tiger Beat magazine, and all that. And they would often have like Hilary Duff posters, Hilary Duff pictures, and everything else. Well, I wound up smuggling those into school one day and showing them to my friends, and and I looked at them. I was looking at them because I wasn't paying attention in my second grade class. And Miss Skinner, my second grade teacher at Middletown, my second grade teacher at Gaffney Elementary School in New Britain. She wound up seeing me looking at them, and she took them away as if I was looking at legit pornography. And I was like, holy shit. That has stayed with me my whole life. That one story, because I loved Hilary Duff. I loved Lizzie McGuire so much that I was like, you know what? I'm going to share a little bit of the love. you know? And, yeah, I remember there was this one poster of Hilary Duff that just I loved with a passion, and I wish I could find it again, just for nostalgic reasons. It was a poster of her in a red satin dress on a red satin background, and I think she was holding a flower. And I believe it was from either from J14 or Tiger Beat. It was one of those magazines, and I just loved that poster. It was beautifully shot too. But anyway, getting back to the show. And that's why whenever like the Aaron Carter episode came on or the Frankie Muniz episode came on, I was like, oh, got to deal with these guys going after my girl again. Even though I knew I had no chance in hell with her because I was like 4 years old at the time. You know what I mean? So getting back to the show. Looking back on it, watching the episode that I did, I do have to say that parts of it are a little embarrassing now. Parts of it don't. There are parts of the show that really don't hold up because a lot of the show, I almost call it has MTV style editing because it flashes, it does these weird camera effects. It does these weird editing montages, weird filters would be put on sometimes. Weird like fades and transitions would be used. And a lot of that stuff, and they would use like ultra dramatic music for like ridiculous moments. Like there was one episode, like the episode I watched was like when Matt comes home and finds out his lizard died. He's looking in the cage and he's like, "She's dead," and the camera like zooms in, extreme to his face, while he's screaming, and there's like this classical, like dramatic music going in the background. I'm like, come on, this is overkill. I guess stuff like that is what made the show great. Was its flashy editing. No Disney Channel show really had that at the time. Of course, that's because a lot of the Disney shows at the time were dramas, not going for that. But there were definitely parts of the show that were cheesy. But I do have to say there were references, like really adult references that the show is making too, that completely went over my head when I was a kid. Completely went over my head. And watching the show now as a young adult, I'm totally getting the references, and I'm totally loving the references that they're making. And I have to say, remarking on Robert Carradine and Haley Todd, they work so well together. It's like they worked together at some point before, but this is like their first time working together. Haley Todd, for those of you who don't know, she was a famous actress back in the day. She starred in a lot of sitcoms, a lot of movies, but she's mostly known outside of Lizzie McGuire for playing Penny Walters on the show Brothers, and she is the second child of actress Anne Morgan Gilbert and writer-producer George Eckstein. So she definitely came from some stage and screen royalty there. Now, Robert Carradine, his work I had been familiar with before. I'd been familiar with him from this old special that I saw. I think I saw it years ago. I have vague memories of it. It was a Minnie Mouse thing and I think Suzanne Summers was in it. I remember because I had an aunt who used to tape old Disney Channel all the time and old ABC stuff. So I think this was on there. It was called Totally Minnie. So I had seen him in that. And he had also, of course, famously was in the film Revenge of the Nerds. And his brother David Carradine appeared in some episodes. I think he appeared in one episode as a karate instructor, which is really cool. Harkening back to his days on the show Kung Fu, which he was most famous for. And of course, I do have to mention the movie. There was a theatrical film made of Lizzie McGuire, and I think it's the only Disney Channel original series thus far, I believe, that has gotten a theatrical feature film. Even Stevens had a made-for-TV film, Sweet Life, That's a Raven, I think Wizards of Waverly Place. All those were direct to TV. And talking about Gordo, he was a guy after my own heart, because that fella was like totally against the mainstream. He didn't like anything mainstream. He was always going against the grain, which is something that I maybe unconsciously or subconsciously I've carried through with my life, because I'm not a mainstream guy. I don't like what's out now, what's popular. I'm very much in the past. I'm very much, esoteric. I like a lot of eccentric, eclectic things. I mean, for gosh sakes, I'm going to be starting a podcast soon dedicated to Tommy Cooper. Now, what 22-year-old American is talking about fucking Tommy Cooper? You know what I mean? But I gotta say it. I loved Lizzie McGuire growing up as a kid. It was one of my favorites. And again, it's because of Hilary Duff. I mean, I could care less about the issues that she went through. I mean, it's hard to review a show like this when you're a guy. It's hard to review shows like this as a guy, because it's like most of the issues on this show were all like teen girl issues, and a lot of stuff guys like me didn't understand at the time. I mean, I guess the male equivalent to Lizzie McGuire was Even Stevens, but I don't remember a lot of episodes where they explored like Lewis's personal issues. I mean, I guess when I revisit that series, I'm going to see what issues he had to deal with, because that will be covered. That will be coming down the pike on Memory Machine. However, I am going to be taking a break from the Zoog stuff as of right now. But it's like this show, Even Stevens, So Weird, The Jersey. I never really liked Jet Jackson growing up, but when I review that show, because I will take a look at it, that show I will be going into with completely new eyes, because I never watched that show growing up. So I'll be looking at that with brand new eyes. Same thing with In a Heartbeat. I don't really remember that show. I remember seeing promos for it, but I don't remember it because that show is really, really short-lived. And we can't talk about Lizzie McGuire also without talking about Ethan Kraft. Ethan Kraft was like the school hunk. Now, he went through a bit of a transition. I think as his hair grew, he got dumber. It's sort of like the Eric Matthews thing in Boy Meets World, where when Eric's hair got longer, his brain got shorter. Because he just got progressively dumber throughout the series. And it's like they still looked up to him, they still loved him. And, Ethan Kraft, Clayton Snyder, AJ Trough, Eric Von Detten, they all had that blonde sort of teen heartthrob look that you just don't see anymore. You don't see that anymore. It's like, what, did that go out all of a sudden? Is that what's, the kids don't like that anymore? And I also loved Matt's friend Lanny. Matt's friend Lanny, he would never talk. He was a direct descendant of Crispus Attucks. He never speaks on screen, but Matt understands everything he says because he speaks through his eyes. I think Lanny would have worked well in silent films. And I will be covering the movie at some point. I will, because I never saw the movie actually. where Lizzie went to Italy and had that fantastic adventure with that singer and all that stuff in the clone. I never watched that movie growing up, actually. I was more or less a fan of the series because of what the series was like. Because I noticed that when they make a TV series and they transition over to like a big screen feature film, I noticed a lot of stuff changes and they try to make the movie a lot more epic than the show ever was. Case in point was DuckTales the movie, which will be the next subject of the Memory Machine. I can't wait to cover that film. Um, so, yeah, the Lizzie McGuire movie that was okay from what bits and pieces I saw of it. I liked the songs that Hilary Duff came out with for Lizzie McGuire were great. I mean, again, it's not my particular genre, but when I listened to them back in the day, I enjoyed them. Like her song "I Can't Wait," her song "Why Not" from the Lizzie McGuire movie. Both those songs are really, really good. I mean, she was, again, in addition to being the only Disney Channel superstar that never sold herself, she's also the only Disney Channel star that actually made songs that I can listen to. Because she had a good voice. I don't know. I don't think she wrote her songs personally, but she had a good voice. She looked good, and she didn't need all this makeup, all these weird tight outfits in order to look good doing what she was doing. She had a natural talent, which is what a lot of these new up and comers are I think missing. A lot of these girls are missing that. Now I'm not trying to sound like ooh Mr. Old Man get off my lawn, but that's the truth. Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, none of them can match up to Hilary Duff. Miley Cyrus definitely can't match up to Hilary Duff because look what she did. But I have to say, Lizzie McGuire, while an enjoyable, nostalgic watch, not the most well-made television program. Not the most well-made. I mean, it's really on the fringe of being cheesy, almost. When you look back on episodes now, yeah, it's really, 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 really cheesy. Um, and but will I still watch it? Yeah, I'll still watch episodes of it. Now, again, it must be mentioned, this was again another one of those shows that was part of Disney's dreaded 63 episode rule. Which means it only got 2 seasons, uh, and it only got like 63 or 65 episodes, and then that was it, it was over. Now, at least, I'm going to say, at least Lizzie McGuire got a somewhat satisfying conclusion, unlike So Weird. Um, and the movie was really, really good for what it was. I mean, again, just from seeing clips, the graduation ceremony. The only thing that really detracts me from watching it is the fact that Lelane's not in it, and it's mainly about Lizzie going to Italy, and I don't think her parents are in it very much at all. I don't think her brother's in it very much at all. Thank God. But there's a lot that was left out of the movie that was so great about the TV show, from what I remember. But Lizzie McGuire, yeah, if you remember it, give it a look. But I want you to be prepared to laugh at it and not with it, because it is very much cheesy. But when it gets serious, it gets good when it gets serious, but when it gets silly, it really gets silly. Um, so yeah, this has been Geno Cuddy. I hope you guys enjoyed the short and sweet look back at Lizzie McGuire. I know this wasn't a long one. I really don't like going for more than like 30 minutes on shows like this. But alright guys, as promised, this was the Lizzie McGuire episode of the Memory Machine. I really, really enjoyed the show growing up, but I don't know if I'll be revisiting it anytime soon. If I had to give this any sort of a rating, if I had to give Lizzie McGuire any sort of a rating, I'd give it a 5 out of a 10. Not quite big league, not quite major league, but not quite horrible either. Because I have seen worse television shows, and there have been worse television shows from my childhood. So yeah. Alright, guys, this has been Geno and I'm sorry if I ever got off topic during this episode. There was just so much I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to get in under 30 minutes. Alright, guys, this has been Geno. I hope you join me for the next episode, where I will be discussing the 1990 Walt Disney Pictures animated film, DuckTales the movie, Treasure the Lost Lamp. That's going to be a fun one. I've got to detract a bit from my timeline because I usually talk about shows and movies from the mid 90s and the early 2000s, but this is a movie that I grew up with and I love with a flaming passion, so I just have to talk about it. Alright, guys, I'll be talking to you guys later. Peace.